Now from that place of quiet, I invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable and get things out of your lap so you can get your feet firmly planted on the floor. Give yourself some good grounding. And as we begin to take some deep breaths in and out, and let go of the rushing around this morning. It is in that breath of God that breathes us, that we can know the truth of our being. So breathing in, we see that breath going in and out through our heart space. See it in your mind's eye as you breathe in and breathe out through your heart. Breathing in and breathing out. And now I invite you to think of some situation in your life that really could use some additional healing, some special love focus this day. Maybe it's a person, or maybe it's a situation in your life. So I invite you to see that love that we have been breathing in and through our hearts, projecting that out like pink love light and surrounding this person or this situation. There is nothing that enough love cannot heal. Love is the healing harmonizer of all things. That power of love in you is so strong. And when you are in the center of that, your love that you send out to this person or this situation, it's like a magnet, and it draws to it that love that you send out. And it can be felt. It's almost as if it's palpable. So I invite you now, in a moment of silence, seeing your love energy melting any discord, any hurt feelings, any I wish it should have, could have, whatevers, and just see the truth in it. See the love in the situation as we move into a moment of silence. We are made in the image and likeness of God, and we all know that God is love, and therefore our beingness is love. We are here to be love in expression. We are here to show up as that. as our great master teacher Jesus taught us, it is up to us to be that expression of love. That is how God lives and moves in our beingness, to be that expression that we came here to be. So we choose love this day. We choose it as how we show up. And when that happens, we see fear, all discord just melting away. Because it's an inside job and it begins with us first. So we choose that. We choose that this day. To see it rightly, to know the truth, and to claim that oneness that we are with the God of love. And now we begin to bring our focus back into the room, feeling such gratitude for knowing how simple things can be when we allow them to be as such. And as you bring your focus back into the room, whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. Be a center of love is what we're talking about today, and that is a real photograph. Reverend Eileen brought that to us. Do you see it? Is that not amazing? I know. What a perfect picture. And so we're looking at that center stripe, right? We want to be a center of love, and it's going right toward that heart in the sky. It is just amazing how, God is in all things always, and it doesn't necessarily matter if you're looking for it. Things just show up and remind us, don't they? They just show up. There's synchronicity everywhere when we're paying attention and looking for the good in all. Now, it's not always easy to be a center of love. If somebody says something to you that you feel like hurts your feelings or is off-putting to you, or if someone says or does something to a member of your family, one of your children or your grandchildren, and it upsets you, it's not easy to be that center of love, because we feel it first and we react from that place of defensiveness, don't we? It's sort of a default that happens to us. But I'm here to tell you that we have spiritual tools in our toolboxes. There are things that we can do that will help us become more of that center of love. We started last week by talking about the connection practice, that Costa Rica only has a ministry of peace because they only focus on peace, right? So we talked about the connection practice and how you can go and learn what they're teaching the children in the Costa Rican schools about how to diffuse anger issues and things that are happening in their own emotions, right? So today we're going to go through some more of those spiritual tools that you can access that will help you be more of that center of love that we all choose to be, don't we? So this month, our theme is love, of course, because it's February. And we have an affirmation that we would like to say together, very short. Together, I am loved and lifted up. So I want to start this morning with Myrtle Fillmore, our co-founder. Listen to her words. She says, instead of thinking of the people whom you have believed to be evil and an undesirable influence, think of the goodness of God in the life of his children. Think of God as everywhere present light, love, peace, power, and life. Think of all men, women, and children as abiding in God's presence and expressing God's qualities. to me, it's easier to do this if we start with the first principle of unity, which is what? God is all there is. God is omnipresent. God is in all things always. So even when somebody says something ugly that we interpret as not so good or bad, right? That person is still a child of God. We may not like their behavior, but they are still a child of God. And so wherever God is, the whole of God must be, right? God is omnipresent. Because of that, God's love must be present at every point in space, all the time. God is present in its entirety at the point right where you are in every single moment, right? So we only need to be conscious of that allness that God is. It's up to us to be aware and alert that we are God in expression. Love is one of the most powerful powers that we have. It's one of our 12 innate gifts as being a child of God. And it isn't an emotion. Love is a healing power. It melts fear because love is stronger. And it is the reality that all people are one with God, no matter what. So when you know that God is in you because you live and move and have your being in God, then where's the fear coming from? Right? Where's the fear coming from? There's nothing to fear. Because spirit within is that abundance, it's that well-being, it's that joy. It's right there within you all the time. So all of us are learning. We're all on this path, and we're learning this truth together. But one of the greatest boosts to our own spiritual education is doing what Myrtle Fillmore said, looking for that good, and what Jesus taught us, how to love one another. So as we practice seeing God's presence in others, we increase our own capacity to feel God's presence in ourselves. That's the true goal, isn't it? To know who we are. When we encounter people, and we will encounter people, especially those perhaps on the national stage, or someone in our own personal lives whose behavior is less than, whose behaviors we just do not appreciate, right? Because they don't seem to have a clue that they are expressions of God. They don't seem to know that they are love and expression. So what do? Love them, love them, love them. We take it a step above this feeling, this reaction to the negative, whatever they're doing, and we see them and we hold them in the light and love of God because we know the truth of them. And we know that love will take that fear away, because when somebody does something that we think is disgusting, it's coming out of some fear place. It's always related somehow to fear. So as Maria Gonzalez used to tell me, just splash your love around. Splash, darling, just splash that love everywhere. So we go to Scripture today. We're in John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, and you're familiar with this. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. So, this new commandment of Jesus, this new commandment, new means a realization of our spiritual identity. And what we know about Jesus was this new commandment was this impersonal principle of love for love's sake. Love no matter what. That's what Jesus stood for, and that's how he showed up on the planet. And of course, love, that main attribute, the healing harmonizer of the world, Jesus loved his disciples by seeing them spiritually perfect. Now, they were flawed just like we are, because we're learning the truth together, right? They were flawed, but he loved them, and he only saw them in their spiritual perfection. And he called them the disciples because we are also disciples. Once we know the truth of who we are, our focus becomes more on our spiritual life, not so much on material things anymore. So how do we take Jesus' commandment to the next level? What are the tools that we have in our toolbox that will help us stay in that consciousness of the love that we came here to be? Well, I have several that I'm going to share with you today. One of them is from this book. One of our Unity authors, Margaret Pounders, wrote a book called The Laws of Love. And she says, resistance is any attitude that places a barrier between us and our good. Non-resistance is not passivity, she said. It's always the result of our mental activity. Our heaven begins in our mind and stretches outward into the world. We are all children of God. There's nothing to resist. Non-resistance is nothing more or nothing less than love. And so non-resistance means that we are in the flow of life. We're in the flow of love. We're not resisting things that come into our lives that are our teachers, our lessons, the things that we go, oh, I don't really like the way that feels. There's your lesson. So then you know to get non-resistant and to get in that love that you came here to be. So you allow your life to be non-resistant. The second one I want to talk about is mindfulness. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Zen Buddhist monk, says in his book, True Love, without mindfulness, we live like the dead. Every time we practice mindfulness, we are born again into the kingdom of God. Mindfulness is the practice that consists in bringing the body and the mind back to the present moment. And every time we practice that, we come back alive again. So we know the importance of the present moment, because I can tell you, if you're sitting here thinking about what your lunch plans are, you're not in the present moment. If you're upset because your person didn't cook you the right breakfast today, and you're in the past, then you're not in the present moment. In the present moment, it means that you're really alive, alert, awake, and paying attention to what is happening right here and now. If someone is sharing their heart with you and you are already thinking about your response, you're not in the present moment. Because active listening means we listen and then we respond later, because Spirit always gives us the words that we need to say. We don't have to worry about what's going to come. But when you're not really listening, you're not in the present moment. So that's a really good one. The next one I want to talk about is nonviolence, because we started this Gandhi King season for nonviolence, began on January the 30th, and it goes all the way till April the 4th. There are 64 days that the Association of Global New Thought brings focus to ways in which we can be nonviolent. Have you ever read Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg? It's wonderful. There are things that we can do in this website, agnt.org. There are all sorts of resources there. There's quotes for every day to just bring you back to the remembrance that nonviolence begins with us. It begins with our languaging and how we talk to people and how we show up in relationships. So cities across the globe are focusing on nonviolence because it's the memorial anniversaries of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King. The purpose of this campaign is to focus educational and media attention on the idea of attaining peace through nonviolent actions. And we know what we focus on grows. What principle is that? 3. God is, I am, I think. So what we focus on is what comes to us. So I encourage you to check out that website because there's lots of resources. It's free to everybody. They have things for schools, for churches, and I printed out for us a congregation pledge of nonviolence. It's to respect self and others, to communicate better, to listen, to forgive, to respect nature, to recreate nonviolently, so in sports that we have our best behavior, to be courageous. And it says, this is what Unity Church of Peace stands for. There's one on the bulletin board, and there's one for you to take if you want to work on nonviolence. This is just another way to keep our consciousness focused on the outcomes that we desire. There's so many wonderful tools out there. The next one that I want to talk about is about forgiveness. We know the importance of forgiveness. And the Hawaiian tradition of Ho'oponopono is a wonderful practice. It is very, very simple, and yet it is so profound. Joe Vitale wrote a book about zero limits. And what I understand is that there's a zero state that we can attain where we have like zero limits, no memories, no identity. When we get to that zone, when we get to that place. And so the mantra is just these few little sayings. And you say it over and over again. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. Let's do it again. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. It is based on the idea that we take 100% responsibility for everyone's actions, including our own. Dr. Joe Vitale says this practice not only improves health, it improves relationships. It opens up new opportunities for you because you're in this place of peace of mind. So I love that. I love that we have these tools. And you know, we have our core values. If you'll look every single Sunday, I don't know how many of you read this, but our church created this mission and this vision and these core values in 2018. We are spirit-led, inclusiveness, prosperity, peace, and love are the 5, what I would want to say are like cornerstones. So if something needs to be decided, if it fits into these, then yes, that's our signal that we go ahead, right? So we have to know who we are, what we stand for. And these are the things that we decided that we are and that we aspire to be. And that's why we created this vision and this mission to grow spiritually and inspire love and peace. So it starts with being a center of love. You know, I've had some people tell me that they actually feel the love before they walk in the building. They feel it in the parking lot because we have an intention to be that, to show up as that, to live from that place. So let's recap. So the first thing is we have to remember our unity principles, especially principle 1, God is all there is. The second one is we must be non-resistant. The third one is that we need to be mindful, practice mindfulness in our lives. The next one is we need to be aware of nonviolence and nonviolent communication. And the last one is forgiveness. When we do all of these, then we are changing our own consciousness. We're dissolving our own prejudices, and it will heal all of our fears in us if we practice any or all of these things that we've talked about today. We do this by becoming a center of love. You will become a positive influence in your community, and you will be centered in protection when you're in that center of love. You will be that. No harm will come to you when you're in that center. In fact, people around you are going to be uplifted because you're in that place. So, the more of us that do the work, soon our city, then our state, our nation, and our whole planet is going to feel that vibration, because love is truly the answer. So I invite us to choose that. Choose it today. Okay, enough preaching, time for a joke. So there's a teacher in the classroom, and she asked one of her students there, "Can you give me a sentence about a public servant?" And the little boy thinks for a minute, and he said, "Yes." He said, "The fireman came down the ladder pregnant." And the teacher pulled the little boy aside and said, "Son, do you know what the word pregnant means?" And he said, "Sure, teacher, I know what that means. It means with child, carrying child." Carrying a child. He was really right, wasn't he? He was right all along. So I found this wonderful book, The Concentric Perspective. I love Eric Butterworth. So I want to read this to you now. To get along with people is not dependent as much on them as it is on your willingness to go along with the flow. This is why I often say that getting along with another person is only 2% what he or she is, says, or does, and 98% how you react to what they say or do or show up as. The statistics may be somewhat exaggerated, but the point is that if you are willing to accept your responsibility, any relationship conflict can be resolved and healed by getting centered in your love flow. It takes two to make a quarrel, but it only takes one to bring it to an end. There is a dynamic activity of harmony and love everywhere, whether you are not aware of it or not. That this is what the omnipresence of God means. It is always present at the inmost center within you as a potential for transcendent power. The need is simply to give way to love's flow. And I want to tell you that I know some people that have been looking forward to and practicing their love flow, and that is the fact that we have been having a new member class, and we have some folks that have decided to join our ministry today. So we're going to move into that now. I'd like to invite our board members that are here to please come up and welcome the people that are going to be installed today. If you'll come up, I'm going to call you by name. Manuela Bass, Michael Dunphy, Lois Mayer, Joy Robertson, Joanne Smith, Sarah Ullery. Wanda Whiteside couldn't be here today. Bob Williams. Mary Williams. We got you out of the AV booth. We're looking for Joanne. I saw her for a flash, so I know she's there. I actually saw her on Zoom earlier. I'm going to go ahead and start, and then maybe we'll catch her in just a minute. Where two or more are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. That's from Matthew 18:20. I had the pleasure of interacting with these folks, many of them in the new member class these last few weeks. Successfully meeting with your peers and making that extra effort reflects in each one of you the true desire to know God and to unfold spiritually, which is the truest requirement. In unity, we have no dogma. We only ask that you seek the truth and that you commit to your spiritual journey. We unite in spiritual community so that we have a place to explore spiritual truths together, a place to remind each other that we are originally blessed and to know our oneness. We come together so we can lift each other up in prayer, in thought, in spiritual companionship, and in sacred service. For this is how we expand our consciousness, transform our lives, and impact our world. I see Joanne. Do you see Joanne? That's Joanne Smith, and she's in Sanibel. Joanne is John's sister. In our unity of purpose and our love of God, and as dedicated spiritual students, we believe that our faith in oneness is the rock upon which our community is built. Unity means oneness. We create this unity by bringing with us all of our various backgrounds to blend together, living Christ consciousness. Friends, in unity, as the minister of this church, it is my great pleasure and privilege on behalf of this Board of Trustees and of our membership that's present here today and on Zoom to receive you into full and active membership of Unity Church of Peace. Let's give them a round of applause. And now let's give them our unity blessing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you. Now stay just for a minute, and we're going to ask Tracy to take a photo. And there's Joanne. So Tracy, can you get Joanne in there? Yes, I'm going to try to get a picture of the new members. Thank you, board, for being up here and for participating. There, we got a big picture of her. Yeah. So there are 9 people. Wanda's the only one. Did we get a picture? Okay, thank you so much. We're so grateful to have you. Be sure you welcome them after service. I told you it would be easy, didn't I? Nothing that you had to say or do. We aim to please. So this is the time in our service when we get to give from our good back into the service. And so we gather our tithes and offerings for the general fund. And for those of you that are on Zoom or who are watching it later, we're grateful for you using that Breeze link or that PayPal link for your blessings. We're going to bless them together now. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.